Stages, they've got the phones out, they know what it's about. It's all about getting some socials, isn't it? I was there that day, that famous day, right? Yeah. So if anyone hasn't got a name tag, there's a little roll of them up the back there. There's masks if anyone wants a mask, there's a hand sanitizer if you want that, and there's a few snacks. There's tea and ordinary coffee, so I'm not suggesting you go and grab the ordinary coffee, but it's there if you want it. Yeah. Okay, it's 9:59, so we'll let it tick just past 10, you know, just sort of 30 seconds past 10, and then we'll get into it. Is everybody's phone on mute? The oldest problem in the book, isn't it, that one? Could be my mum that calls. That could be the one that triggers it all.
What are you doing, Chrissy?
Remember I told you yesterday, mate? No, you didn't tell me. All right, Joel, we're ready when you are. You just give us the countdown. Well, good morning, everybody. It's fantastic to see such a great audience in attendance and also online. We've got about 100 people coming to the session today, the event, from all over Australia. We've got people from far north Queensland right through to Tasmania and South Australia. And as I speak, we've got the food trolley bringing things into the room to compete with. Can somebody just push the next slide down? What I'd like to do now is just make sure I do the welcome to country. We're in the beautiful southwest Sydney corridor here in Campbelltown at the Arts Centre, but of course we've got people from all over Australia. There's a lot of talk these days about the welcome to country, so I thought I'd pick something just a little bit different, which is that we honour and respect our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander traditional custodians, elders and communities, and the spirit that binds us in our dreams and aspirations on Dharawal country, but for that, of course, read whichever country you're on. We acknowledge the beauty, sincerity and resilience as we move forward in peace and reconciliation with respect to our land, our place and each other, and that's written by some local Indigenous people, which is fantastic. Thanks, Hunter. Just before I get into the sort of picture of what small business is, I would like to just acknowledge that, yes, well, I'm Chris Mooney. I deliver the Entrepreneurship Facilitation program in southwest Sydney, but we've also got Rachel Turner, who's doing that in the Northern Rivers, and Peter Peterson, who's doing that in the Fitzroy region for Queensland. We all come from different backgrounds. We've all got different strengths. But the one thing we can bring is a lot of business experience to whatever problem or challenge that you have in particular. So I guess it's important perhaps just to paint the picture for this, you know, big land and small population country that we're in. There are about 2.5 million businesses in Australia, but 98% of those are small or medium enterprises. 98%. So this is not America, this is not Europe. And 63%, or about 1.5 million, are the micro businesses, just like many of you in this room here today and online, who employ nobody except yourself. The other 7%, or you know, roughly 1 million businesses, still only employ between 1 and 20 people. Thanks, Hunter. So you get the idea. This is a very important topic, and we've got a lot of people here in this room, and I'm sure in the communities where you sit, that are well supported, whether it's by Business Connect here in New South Wales or the other agencies like APM and Serena Russo, but whatever it is in your area, or the likes of the panellists that are going to be with us after our guest speaker. So here's the landscape in New South Wales, and apologies to those of you in other states. The picture is exactly the same. We're still a land of small businesses, as you'd expect. Employing about 1.8 million people, but generating $64 billion in annual wages and salaries to employees. Now, for businesses that don't employ many people, that's a pretty big number, right? So I guess you have to see things in perspective. Thanks, Hunter. So our program is a free federal government program sponsored by Workforce Australia. We provide a free federal government funded service to help people establish a new business or consider self-employment. We work one-on-one with you, and the program's a little different these days. Before, we used to hold hands and walk you through with a lot of coaching and mentoring. So today it's more about a diagnostic. It's a bit like going to the GP. You've got a whole raft of things that need attention, and out of all that, the doctor will probably say, I think you need to see such and such a specialist. And really, that's our role, to listen carefully, to diagnose, understand what support you need and where it's best served. So we can then outline that advice and provide referrals to those organisations. So look, at that point, it's my great pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, and after the guest speaker, we will have a panel discussion. And look, some of the sort of simple rules are for the discussion. People online, feel free to post questions. We won't try and answer them on the run. That just gets a bit too complicated. But we will come back to each of you that posts a question and send that to the right person for answering. So we still welcome questions, and we will take some questions from the room as well during the course of the session. So look, it's my great pleasure to welcome my own business colleague and good friend, Hunter Leonard. Now, he's got a very long CV here, as you can imagine. People like us with grey hair, we have very long CVs. So I'm not going to try and read it all, but he is a legend. He's a business owner, author, speaker, who's developed an outstanding marketing reputation in particular, I might mention, through his business Blue Frog Marketing and his more recent business venture, which is called Silver and Wise, which is the banner behind me, which was founded in 2016 with the aim of combating ageism. Now, you know, ageism doesn't mean people of my age, it means people of 45 and over, right? So, you know, it's a serious issue in this country and probably around many parts of the world. He's authored 9 books, including the Amazon bestsellers, The Experience Equation and Generation Experience, and both of these books were named as finalists in the Australian Career Book Awards, and his organisations have won 6 major awards for marketing excellence, as well as being listed in both the Smart 100 and Cool 100 awards since 2018. He's surveyed over 10,000 businesses to develop the services offered by his businesses, delivered 700 seminars, generated about $2 billion in sales growth as a result of that work since 2001. And look, when he's not running his business, he's a keen bushwalker, musician, photographer, and cook. Hunter, welcome.
Thank you very much, Chris. Hello, how are you going? So I'm going to start just with a little bit of context on this topic of how to survive and thrive. And we can just say that statement, how to survive and thrive, and we go, okay, yeah, sure, that's an interesting topic. I'd be interested in the answers to that. But the first thing I want to do before we talk about anything else is to just point out that they are 2 different very phases in a business. And it makes sense, right? You've got to survive before you can thrive. And I'm going to use a bit of an analogy. I love bushwalking, so I'm going to talk a lot about bushwalking and treks and other things today. But really, if you've got a business that's in survival mode, then you're doing different things than if you're thriving. If you're thriving, you're probably just wanting to keep your hands lightly on the levers of the business, and you're just going to keep doing what you're doing because it's working, right? But if you've had some major change, like all of us went through a few years ago with the pandemic, or you've had a particular competitive landscape change in your own business, or you've had a health issue as a single sole trader that's made it difficult for you to run your business, these things can put you back into survival mode, and you could be running your business for a decade or more and still go back into survival mode. The important thing to realise is that they are 2 different modes, and you shouldn't be trying to do the things that you're doing while you're thriving, while you're trying to survive. You've got to really change gears. And so the content of what I'm going to talk to you about today, I will try and give you a flavour of those two phases as I talk through it. And they are very different. So if you're having some difficulties running your business, then there'll be some short-term emergency actions you might need to take. We're consulting a business at the moment that's got a fairly large outstanding tax debt that they're going to have to handle because they didn't do some things as basics early on, so they've got themselves into a bit of trouble. They're now going to have to handle that before they can resume normal operations. Same thing can occur. We've got a tight labour market. I'm sure anyone who's a small business owner or a big business owner for that moment is frustrated about trying to find good people to do the work that we need them to do. They're thin on the ground, and the labour market is very competitive, so there's people offering them some really good money to do the same job, and you might not be able to compete as a small business. You know, you can earn a couple $100,000 driving a truck on the mines at the moment, so, or driving a bus. You know, so if somebody just wants to have a chilled life up north somewhere and earn a couple $100,000, it might be hard for you to compete against that, where you might only be able to pay them 80 or 100 or whatever. So there's a number of things we really have to think about in regards to these phases. This is not the brag file. Those of you who know me well know I'm not about bragging, but I do want to give you a little bit more of an impression about who I am and why I care about you as business owners and business owners generally, why I care about topics like ageism and the purpose behind it. I consider myself to be a Renaissance guy. I like to do lots of different things, and I like to try and be competent and good at those things. I'm not doing it so I can stand up in front of people like you and say, hey, I do all these things. I do it because I love doing different things. In the last couple of years, I've played a gig every Friday night playing music. I play acoustic guitar and I sing songs. In the last couple of years, I've learned 500 songs that I can play. But I didn't do that in an instant. And I'm going to come back to this concept of instant success and magic bullets in a minute. It doesn't exist. It's gambling. But there's a lot of gurus out there online that we're all watching. They have big names and they've got opinions, and they talk about this idea that you can be an instant global success with a small business. Well, the stats prove that that's bullshit, excuse the expression. If 98% of businesses are micro or small businesses and 67% of them employ no one, they're not turning into global businesses because Gary Vaynerchuk told you could. Now, he's an interesting guy, but he's got an opinion on everything. And it's not necessarily all that useful to listen to someone if they don't give you the backstory. You know, they can give you a nice social media snippet. Chris talked about that, the media soundbite. But it's what lays behind that. And that's what I really want to share with you today, because it's not me standing up here. It's the opinions and attitudes and behaviours of 10,000 business owners that I've surveyed over the last decade or so. So I kind of see myself as kind of the voice of business owners. I really do care about business owners deeply, because business owners have a crack. And on average, there are stats either way, but on average, every business owner is taking responsibility for 3 or 4 families. More if you count their suppliers. So, not that I don't love employees too, but a business owner is taking an extra level responsibility for the economic prosperity of their people and of the communities that they operate in. And I'm big on purpose. Whether I'm photographing images or cooking meals for my friends and family or writing a book, purpose is everything for me. So that's just a little bit about what I do. I've been fortunate recently to have a couple of lovely bits of feedback which has proved this point. One of my clients in the steel industry, been a client for about 20 years, sent this to me as the foreword for my book the other day, which I felt very humbled to receive it from him, because he's one of those guys that walks into the room, he's larger than life, he's a bit rough and gruff, he's got a heart of gold once you get to know him, but he doesn't often write stuff like that, so I was very happy to receive that from him. Chris mentioned this revenue growth. So I judge myself on how well my clients do. I don't judge myself on my own revenue or profit or margin or how many donations I've made to charities or whatever. I don't follow that. I follow how have I helped people as a business consultant or as a strategic marketer or as an author. And my clients have, from the time they started working with me to whatever time they finished, over the last 20 years have grown by over $2 billion. So we've had an impact, and I'm tracking that all the time. I've also run now more than 800 workshops. I've spoken to a lot of business owners, so I'm just sharing this with you because I want you to understand that I do this so that I can understand what you face, and in general terms. Now, every single one of you operate very different businesses, and of course there's a depth in those businesses. But I'm sorry to say you're not unique. You might be unique as individuals, and obviously you are all. But we all share the same issues, and it's been proven over the last decade. I've been running this survey of 10,000 businesses for more than a decade. And the interesting thing is that sample size, if you look at it as a whole, is 10 times the size of the Gallup poll that we all get excited about when we work out who's going to win the election. It's about 1,000 people that they survey to tell you whether it's going to be Liberal, Labor, Independent, the Teals, whatever. So we've surveyed 10,000. Now, I can tell you the error margin on that is so small as to be not worth talking about, which means that whatever they've told me and I share with you today is probably the truth. And what they shared with me is their challenges of running businesses. And what we did over the last 6 or 7 years, and of course going back 22 years now in our marketing business, is we've translated those challenges into some simple 101 foundational concepts that you can use as a business owner to run your businesses. Even as a sole trader, the concepts work whether you're running your own business or whether you're running a team of 10,000 people. And the proof is that in those surveys, the feedback has never changed in a decade. It's always, I'm having trouble finding new clients. I'm having trouble keeping my clients. I'm having trouble finding staff. I'm having trouble keeping my staff. I'm having trouble with my cash flow. I'm having trouble with my quality control. I'm having trouble setting my goals and then working towards achieving them because I don't really even like the idea of strategic planning, and every time somebody mentions it to me I curl up in a ball because I think of this 50-page document that I have to write and I have to do all this research and it's all too complicated. I just want to just take a breath, okay? Because you can do it, we've just got to simplify it down to the basics. And so what I want to share with you is this concept, and we call it the 8 rooms, just for the purpose of an analogy. If you realise that you had a business and there was 8 rooms, so you had a physical destination, we're talking virtually here, but let's imagine you had an office with 8 rooms. When I take those 10,000 surveys and I look at every single piece of feedback and collapse them down, they fall in these 8 rooms. And just a little bit of hint for you, again, to point out that you're not necessarily unique, is that every single business has these 8 rooms. There are no other rooms, so don't go looking for problems elsewhere. They will be in one of these categories. And if you spend time on these 8 rooms, as a sole trader, or as a small team, or as a large organisation, you will be able to increase your chance of success, whether you're in survival mode or whether you're in thriving mode. You just got to spend time in them. Because what I mentioned this client we're consulting at the moment with the tax debt issue, that's in the money room, and it's the direct result of them not having some of these basics in place. And we'll talk a little bit about that more again. There are no other rooms. I can be pretty confident that. Again, it's not my opinion, it's the opinion of 10,000 business owners. Okay? So, surviving and thriving. You do have to survive before you thrive. This is the idea of putting in a really good, strong foundation for your business. So if you're somebody who's just starting a business or someone who's consulting to somebody who's starting a business, there's a few things they need to get straight first. With that foundation, they will be able to then move on and thrive. And then if something changes like the pandemic, and let's face it, none of us saw that coming. You know, if anyone got on media and said they did see it coming, well, they're lying to us. But we have to adapt and we have to move with the times. If it wasn't the pandemic, it would have been a new competitor down the road opening up the same shop that delivers the same services that you deliver, or another consultant starting to target your audience. There's going to be change that we have to adapt to. So we may be pushed back out of doing fantastically well to being awake at night worrying about paying our staff or what the hell's going to happen next with government legislation or whatever. So things change. But if you can just come back to this concept, there's 8 rooms, What's the status in each room? What have I got to do in each room? Even if some of these cycles could be 10 or 15 minutes. It's just like, well, I'm going to go and spend some time in the money room. Where am I at? How much money's in the bank account? How much money of it's mine? What's my tax bill going to look like? When are the wages due? Have I got any outstanding invoices? So you can literally, this is for me, because I apply it every day and every week in my own business. This strategy is I can just go, okay, all the noise goes away. I've walked in, I've shut the door, I'm in the money room. Well, there's none here. Oh, shit. Okay. Or I've walked into the people room and there's some argument going on. I don't like blah, 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 and there's no coffee in the thing or whatever. Can you go past? Somebody didn't get in the milk. The fridge is turned off. Blah, blah, said blah, blah, the arguments or whatever. Or have you done what I asked you to do today? No, I haven't done that. Okay, so why didn't you do it? Oh, I didn't understand. So, there's things that happen, but at least we've taken this massive, big issue of running a business and we've narrowed it down to, I'm just talking about people. Doors shut, phones off, I'm in this room. So that's what I also want to help you think with, is this idea of segmenting your time and your energy and your focus into just, multitasking is a nice concept, but really, if you want to solve something, you're better to start on a problem, fix it, solve it, finish, move on, next problem. Otherwise, it's going to have a lot of unsolved things and an in-tray like this, So that's what we're aiming for. And I really do want to get across this point that over 2 decades in business, yes, I've seen people have an unexpected short-term prosperity, like they've picked up 10 clients or something, or they've sold 1,000 of something overnight or whatever. Most of it's unplanned, most of it goes away. Don't gamble. Don't believe that you can go from running a cafe locally to suddenly selling your roasted coffee all over the world, because there's things that have to be done with that, Not that I like military analogies, but the military always used to back themselves up with supply lines so they didn't get cut off. Why the Germans lost the Second World War is they went into the Russian winter and they didn't have warm clothes, pretty much, or oil that worked in their tanks or any of that sort of stuff in cold weather. So we don't want to stretch ourselves too thin. As soon as you decide that you want to go globally or even statewide with a product or service, you introduce costs of delivery. People are wanting free delivery for everything these days, by the way. Thanks, Amazon. That was nice here. It's okay, Amazon can do it. They've got their own planes and their own buses and their own trucks and their own whatevers. They can offer free delivery, and anyway, it's built into their margin. But we can't. If we're making hampers for a corporate client, we're going to have to charge something to send this box that's this big from here to wherever. And if we're going to send it to Singapore, well, by the time it gets there, it's probably $1,000, not $200. So there's all these intricacies that the media sound bites don't get into. You can be a global success overnight. Might be fine if you're selling an online course or something for $900 or whatever, like Gary Vee does, because there's no transport cost, but it doesn't necessarily apply to every business. I'm not saying you can't be a global success, but it's a case of really just taking the steps towards understanding what does it take for me to go from having 100 clients to 150 clients, or selling 1,000 hampers to 2,000 hampers, or 20 cups of coffee to 1,000 cups of coffee. Okay? Good. So, let me tell you about another 2 essential ingredients. I'm not going to talk about Doctor Who, don't worry about that. Time and space. Absolutely critical for us as business owners. In order to get the things done we want to do, we've got to buy ourselves time and space. We've got to create time and space. Probably makes you feel pretty powerful, doesn't it, right at the moment? Creating time and space. How is that possible as a human being? Well, you can. More to the point, if you don't, you are always going to struggle running your business. So let's talk about a few things. How can we create time? Number 1, if we're going to work in a room, put it in your diary. Shut the door, turn your phone off, and spend 20 minutes looking at the room on money. Or spend 20 minutes working out the job description for your staff member or the training plan for your staff member who needs a bit of help and support to be able to do the social media for your business, or whatever. So you create time simply by opening up your Google Calendar or your whatever you use for your calendar, and you just put in a schedule, and that becomes an inviolable time for you as the business owner to focus on that without any noise and distraction. Space. If you're in a place in your business and you're in your office and there's stuff everywhere and you've got cycles thing and the phone's ringing and the emails going and staff are coming in, opening the door, and or you're in a noisy area or whatever, just go and find a space where you can think and plan. I don't care whether it's a co-working office or come down here or sit in the park or just shut the door and ask everyone to just, for a minute or two while you sort some stuff out, because you're incredibly important as the business owner. And what you do creates time and space for the rest of the organisation too. So we can create time and space. Another way we can create time is becoming better at something. Stephen Covey used to talk about this as sharpening the saw. You know, you've got a blunt saw and you try and saw a tree and it takes 4 hours. Sharpen the saw for 20 minutes and it's a half-hour cut. We've now spent 50 minutes, not 4 hours. So for me as a business owner, I'm constantly, and part of me wanting to sort of operate as a Renaissance guy, if you like, is to do other things and find new skills. And believe it or not, if I go and play music for a while, I come back and actually plan better because I've had some creative expression or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And I'm sure whatever it is for you guys, you'll find those things. Maybe it's you've gone to church for the day and you've had your spiritual, you know, filled your spiritual cup, whatever that is for you. These things are all important. So think about this as you're running your business. I've got no time. I can tell you that's the one thing all business owners tell me. I've got no time. I can't do a strategic plan. I can't do this. I can't do that. Sorry, can we move our meeting because I haven't got any time? Just knock it off. Don't be a victim of time and space. Take control of it. And you're not going to do it all at once, but just think of things. Just write down 10 things. How can I create time? Well, I can put things in my diary. I can blah, blah, I can move that away. I'm not going to do that on Mondays. I'm not going to have an open door policy for this period of the time. Whatever it is for you. But you can create time and space. The other way, and the last way I'll talk about before I move on, we can create space and time for ourselves by keeping an eye on what's happening in our market, the trends. Now, if you were a taxi driver in Sydney about 10 years ago and Uber came on the market, that created a bit of kerfuffle, didn't it? Taxi drivers are storming Parliament House asking for government to give them some money because we didn't see our competitors coming. Oh. And by the way, we do. Every time you get into an Uber, a couple of bucks goes to the government to give to the taxi drivers. How stupid is that? That's ridiculous. That's like you were no good at looking for your competitors and somebody bailed you out. That's just not the way things should operate. It should be like, suck it up. How many years did it take taxis to come up with an app? I count it was probably 4 or 5 years after Uber launched. I mean, that's just nuts. Sorry. I can be blunt sometimes. But the same thing happens in our... Look, if you're taking responsibility as a business owner and something happens that was your fault, well, suck it up. Don't look for the government or somebody else to bail you out. What I'm trying to do is give you some tools so that you can actually be... Because I want you to survive and thrive. You are absolutely, collectively and individually important to me. Because if you survive, your family does well, you're financially secure, your community will do well because you'll probably have some things that you support charitably or purpose-wise. The kids will do better at school because you're not stressed and cranky about running your business. Collectively, if we don't have small business in Australia, we don't have an economy. We can do without the odd BHP, we can probably do without the odd bank, but we can't do without small business as a collective whole. 67 billion in wages in New South Wales alone, times that by 4 or 5 in Australia, so we're talking $300-400 billion. It's a fair number. Along with the fact that it's employing, how many was it in New South Wales? 850,000 people? 1.8 million people, 850,000 businesses. So small business is critical. Okay, so time and space, you can now in control of it. So let's look at the 8 rooms. I'm going to go through these. You'll see them on the dial up there, although I'm going to do them in just a slightly different order because we're adapting to change. When I wrote them, I realised there was a few that were more important than others, so we've adjusted the cycle of how we talk about these with our clients. But absolutely, the first room that's critical for you as a business owner, particularly if you're starting a business or something has changed in your business where you need to change your operating basis, is that we've always got to start thinking about what does the future look like. If we focus on what happened yesterday, like a bad experience with a client or a bad experience with a staff member, or the lease came up and the landlord wanted another $300 a week for your space, that you're, whatever, if we focus on those things, we'll always be stressed and upset. Why? Because the past gives you no time and space. It's already happened. Too late. No space, can't do it. Can't control it. What you can control is the future. And if you can continually think into the future, whether it's 2 days hence or a week, 3 months, 12 months, you know, everyone talks about strategic plans for 12 months. I don't care what time frame you write your plan. If you're happy operating a week in the future, in other words, this week I want to have 3 more clients and another $10,000 in revenue, or I want to finish the renovation of my coffee shop, or whatever the target is, you operate on that basis. I'm not going to force you to think 12 months in the future or 3 months or whatever, it doesn't matter. But please try as a business owner and operate in the future, because I can guarantee you'll feel less stressed because you're buying yourself time and space, because you're thinking about something that hasn't happened yet. And you've got time, a week, 2 weeks, 3 months, to think about it. And for any of the physicists among us, or those that have studied that, which I haven't, but we do know that time and space work together. That's why people talk about the space-time continuum, if you're a Star Trek fan. But anyway, what does my future look, smell, feel and sound like? The best business owners I ever work with, and I'm not saying that I'm the guru of coming up with this, but the guys and gals that run businesses really are able to describe their future. And it isn't, I want $1 million in sales. That's not a goal. The goal is closing your eyes and visualising what does that future look like. And if you're running a business, you might close your eyes and you might see that there's 3 more desks and you've got staff there helping, and it's a noisy, happy place. The phones are ringing. You might look at your schedule and it's full of bookings for your massage therapy or your whatever you're doing. So it really is a matter of making it real and getting a really great statement, and it might be 2 paragraphs long, of what that really looks, feels, smells, sounds like to you. You know, is there the smell of roasting coffee from the cafe next door because you've situated your office next to your favourite cafe and so you can just walk in and get a nice coffee? Is it feeling comfortable? You know, you're in control, you've got a planned out week. Your staff are all performing productively, you've trained them well, you've picked the right people, you're making a profit. Yes, of course, have profit revenue figures in there, but really spend some time to do this. And if you've got a team that needs to help you create this future, well, get them to add to it. Oh, we could have a bar. I did this with my team once, and I've had teams from a couple up to 20 staff, but when I had a team of 20 marketers working in both a lead generation sort of bespoke call centre and marketing strategy, we sat them all dinner. We did this. We said, what does it look like? Oh, it would really be great if we had white desks. We had all this second-hand furniture, and it's, white desks, and it'd be nice to have a nice entryway where clients could sit while they're waiting for us, and we could have our logo up on the wall, and blah, 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 blah. We wrote that down, and then step by step over the next 6 to 12 months, we moved office. We had white walls, we had white furniture, we had the logo on the thing, we had a beautiful lounge chair in reception with some plants. We were upstairs from a coffee shop that we all liked. So you can create the future based on that. And of course that's separate to the operation of servicing clients. And of course we had to service clients in order to make the revenue to be able to do that. But everyone was part of that. So to quickly define strategy so we can make it feel a little bit more approachable for you, all it is the available means that you have to find and get to a desired future. So now you don't have to read any more textbooks on strategy, okay? Saved you from going to the library, you don't even have to read my book, although I'd love it if you did. But it's basically visualising the future and then working out the steps that you're going to take to get there. It's as simple as that. Now, a very specific example. So if I wrote this book, Generation Experience, which talks about those, has about 40,000 words in it. Now, if I just sat down at my desk and went, 40,000 words, they don't magically appear on my typewriter or my laptop. They just don't. So what I would say, I'd visualise the future and I'd say, okay, I want a nice aesthetic looking book. It's got a cover, it's got a really nice layout that's easy to read, it's got some diagrams that help demonstrate the communication message, and my daily schedule for a month might be to write 1,000 words. So now I've broken that future down into what it looks like, what it feels like, etc., and then I can work towards it. So that's the trick for you as a strategic plan. And now your strategic plan can be very simple, right? You've written your 2 paragraphs and then you're just writing down what are the things that contribute to that. And then just spend time on that. There's to-do lists, which is the stuff I've got to do, and then there's a plan towards the strategy. And this is the one I want you to focus on, the one 40,000 words. Okay, today I've got to write 1,000 words. I know I've moved towards the goal of 40,000 words, but over here, I don't know, arguing with Telstra for 2 hours on the phone about why my internet isn't connected, that doesn't contribute to that necessarily. Do you know what I mean? There's things that are separate. And we can have busyness in business. There, we've got to do that, I've got to do that. And we run around and we're tired at the end of the day and we're really busy, but we haven't made a material step towards our strategic plan. The businesses that do really well start in this room, the strategy and leadership room, and they do that, step number 1. Step number 2, they work out as leaders because, like it or not, when you start a business, you are a leader by definition. You are leading a bunch of people towards some solution that you're offering, whether it's your customers, your accountant, your shareholders, your staff. So we also have to work out who's coming with us, and I'll go to my analogy of bushwalking now. You're going on a bushwalk with some friends, everyone has a job, but you're the one that is going to say, we're going to the top of that hill over there. It's 8 kilometres away. I'm carrying the backpack, you've got the water, you've got the snake bite first aid kit. You're really important to me. Stay close. I was walking the other day with a mate and I put my foot down like this and I saw this red-bellied black snake just sort of turn over, show the red of its back and go down into the bush, and I was like, okay, where were you? Anyway, it didn't bite me, it was fine. But we do need to inspire others as business owners along the way, whether it's our 3 employees or our accountant. You know, some of us can treat our accountant like the number cruncher, you know, who just does the tax and makes sure that we're compliant and make sure we're up to date with our tax. But I really, every year, brief my accountant on what my goals are for the business. And then I talk to them about how they can help me achieve those goals, because whether or not they're employed by me, it's an outsourced function, they're still really important to me, because they could ring up and say, hey, we were thinking about that goal you've got of blah, blah, blah. And we've got an idea we can share. So now you've moved them from being just counting numbers and getting compliance into being a valuable member of your team. And it doesn't matter whether you're a receptionist or your admin assistant or the person who delivers your supplies, every one of them should be briefed on what you're trying to achieve as a business and who you're trying to help, your customers, etc., etc. One of my friends makes these he's not a client, he makes these most beautiful vintage look caravans, and they're used for food trucks. So he fits them out inside with the counter and a fold-out window and a menu board and a place to put a fridge, and if they're doing coffee, a place to put them. So they're all wired up and everything. They just look stunning. So when somebody turns up at a market with one of these vans, and over here is a 3x3 marquee selling coffee and there's a van selling coffee, these guys almost always sell more coffee, so he contributes to them having more flourishing and prospering businesses, if you like, because he's produced this aesthetic product that everyone's attracted to. But he has a problem, is that everyone that buys his vans rings him up and says, listen, I'm sick and tired of telling people where to buy one of these vans. So they almost, and I said, well, why don't you just activate them and say, well, here's a pack. And then you can just give them a card, or you can give them have a QR code on the side of the van and they can just scan it and whatever. So you can turn them all into, because they already love the brand, let's turn them into PR and referral sources rather than people who are bitching and moaning about having to talk about where the van comes from. So turning a negative into a positive. So those customers, he can inspire them about where he's going with new models, what he's doing with the brand, where they've been seen. These things have been craned up onto roofs in Melbourne and Sydney on the tops of buildings to be outdoor cafes for all sorts of companies. So really cool. So that's the strategy and leadership room. Again, breaking it down, don't worry about strategic plans and big sort of 40-page documents or whatever. Just work out what your future looks, smells, feels like for you. And then just work out the steps of things that are important. There might be 5 or 6 things that you're going to measure. It might be, okay, well, I've got 100 clients now, and by the end of the year I want 200 clients. Okay, well, that's fine. You've got 50 weeks. That means on average you're going to have to get 4 new clients a week, and if you're not getting 4 new clients a week, you're behind your target. You know, there might be a renovation plan in there. There might be a staff recruitment plan, whatever those key strategies are, but then just break them down. If you can't break down the thing you've written in the goal into measurable steps that you can then attack over the next week or 3 months or whatever, don't put it in the goal, because it's just going to be impossible for you to measure whether you're actually halfway to the mountain or not. Marketing and PR. 35% of the 10,000 businesses that we spoke to have this as their number one challenge at any moment in time. So we know that, and I don't want you to beat yourself up, because not many people that start businesses have studied marketing, and we are bombarded, right, Chris? 6,000 advertising messages a day. Google tells us what to do, Facebook tells us what to do, Instagram tells us what to do, the gurus tell us what to do. I'm going to tell you one simple thing that's going to help you, and that is stop listening to people like me on marketing and just talk to your customers, okay? Don't worry about Gary Vee and his attitudes on whether you should be on Facebook or Instagram. Don't listen to Google, for God's sake. Because Google is a conflicted source of information, aren't they? Why? Because they sell ads. Facebook sell ads. Advertising agencies sell ads. When I first started my marketing business, I disconnected our revenue stream from any commissions or any dependence on channels to market. And the reason I did that is because when I said to my client, we should do this, I wanted them to realise that I was caring that they should do that, and I wasn't making money out of telling them to do that. And this is really important. So if you go on to, yes?
So obviously you're saying not listen to Google or Facebook, but they are capturing the bigger amount of audience, and obviously if you see the customer point of view or business point of view, everybody jumping.
Yes.
So don't you think that how you, but marketing is all about connections. So you're selling, you are here, and then you market, good connection. Marketing is all about channel. You know?
Yep.
That's where all the media and whatever, digital,
Yep.
all come from.
Yep.
So what channel then you're going to be focusing on?
Good question. Thank you. We don't worry about those for now.
Okay.
The first thing we do is we get these 4 things, and if you get these 4 things, I can guarantee you'll know which channel to promote down. It may be Google. It may be Facebook. It may be Instagram. It may be a letterbox drop. It might be the sponsorship of the local football club. It might be advertising at a function centre. It might be getting a group of people you know are your target audience together and having an event. It might be whatever. There are millions of opportunities to promote your business. What you're looking for is the one that allows you to connect with people based on their attitudes and behaviours and communicate based on their needs and wants. And this is an interesting thing, because you won't find this in any marketing textbook. You'll find a lot of talking about needs and wants. And you'll find a lot of talking about you have to match people's needs and wants, or you have to create an unmet need and want they didn't even know about. But really, unless you know their behaviours and attitudes, you're only halfway to the puzzle. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, you could say, what do you need? And they say, I need, I don't know, overnight fast courier service that I can guarantee is going to get my product to my customer. Great. Courier company can start talking about fast, reliable courier services, but where are they going to say it? They could say it on Google or Facebook. They could. And that might work for them. But what if all of the local customers that they wanted to approach didn't look on Google or Facebook to find courier companies. Just a what if. I'm not downplaying digital. I've got a good friend of mine that runs the largest network of bike shops in Australia. So per shop, he sells 5 to 6 times more bikes than any other reseller. Giant, Malvern Star, anyway, most bike shops sell a couple of thousand bikes a year in an individual shop. He can sell 8, 9, 10,000 bikes a year. Why? Because he's worked out 2 workable marketing strategies. And one is Google, but it's Google at a level that none of you would probably have ever seen. I mean, he doesn't just write, we've got bikes for sale, call us, which is what most ads on Google are, right? A little bit of a description maybe. Maybe somebody will get to the point of saying, we sell mountain bikes, give us a call. He goes down right through the descriptions of the models down to carbon fibre forks, the type of brakes, the type of internal mechanisms on the bikes, the colour, the size, that he has got everything handled in his ads. And so his ads perform at 5, 10 times more than any other bike shop. But he took the work to do that, understanding that when somebody is looking for a bike, behaviourally, yes, they'll look online, but their attitude is, I want this bike because I've spoken to my mate or I saw him at the local bike club and I saw this bike and I want this, and this. And if they put that into the search, which is highly unusual because they're a very engaged audience, they're not just writing bikes Ivanhoe or bikes Melbourne. They're writing, I want a giant blah blah bike with a fork and bikes, and I want it in blue, and I want 26-inch wheels, and I want straight handlebars, and I want blah 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 blah. Their search terms are ridiculous, but he's worked it out so that he appears first in the ads. So if you survey your customers in a new business, whatever, lawn mowing, hairdressing, doesn't really matter what it is, you must survey customers to understand these things. What do you need? What do you want? And if there, of course, if there's an unmet need or an unmet want for a new sustainable option that you're going to do, whatever, it doesn't matter, you can do that. But please ask them, if you were going to select a lawn mowing company, where would you look? If they say, 97% of them say, I'd ask my friends, then you better get some customers and then they get them to refer you and forget about Google and Facebook. Because they're not looking for lawn mowing on Google. They might even look in the letterbox drop, because letterbox drops work quite well for lawn mowing companies, because everyone walks out, they go to the letterbox and they find a lawn mowing and they look at their lawn and they go, oh, it needs a mow. I know I'm just giving some specifics here, but I just want you to get to this point of knowing that you have to have this data as a small business. You can't just say, I'm going to run Google ads without any knowledge of that. Because if you do that, then the way it's going to happen is you're going to have to run those Google ads for a period of time, and you're going to have to test a whole lot of different things, which is a survey in itself, but you're going to waste a lot of money and time before you find the formula for what works. You know, we work with a financial services company, and we were promoting on Google for a while general things like financial plan, property investment, mortgage, refinance, blah, blah, blah. We were getting okay click-through rates. We moved to specifically promoting an upcoming event, free webinar, for 2 weeks only, with a specific budget, at a specific time, and we had a 4,000% increase in the click-through rate and registration from clients. Same budget, different topic, much more timely focus, so we had to go through that testing to do it. So those things are really important in the marketing and PR room. Again, listen to your customers. Use Google, use Facebook, use Instagram, but don't listen to them for what you should choose. Listen to the client for that, then go to Google and Facebook and find out the best way to use that channel to get to the client, because 97% of the clients said they look at Google first. Okay? Sound good? Good. I'm going to save you a lot of time and money there, I promise you. Sales. Marketing and sales are cousins in the same part of the funnel, if you like. So marketing's job is to promote to a group of customers and get you some interested people out of that audience. So let's say my target audience is mature age people who want to start a business. Okay, so there's a couple 100,000 mature age people in Australia who can't get jobs because of ageism, and about 30% of them want to start a business. So we're talking about 60,000 people. That's my audience within an audience of people who want to start businesses. So I have to be able to target that audience, and once I've done an effective job with my marketing, I'm going to end up with a few hundred people of those ringing me or sending me an email saying, I'd like to buy your book or attend a workshop or whatever. The difference between sales and marketing is marketing has to do its job and hand this in a beautifully tied bow as a qualified lead to the sales team. Now, I know you're all sole traders, so you might be like here, doing my marketing, and then you step over here and you put your sales hat on, but they are different because in my mind, and this is just my opinion, is that as a salesperson, your job is to speak to one customer and then convert them. Now, if you're running a coffee shop, that could be like an instantaneous thing. Customer walks in, I'll have a regular flat white. Thank you, what's your name? Hunter, blah, 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 regular flat white, delivered. So you've made the conversion in an instant. For consultants, sometimes it might take a few months, right? You might have to do some proposals, jig around what people need, and then you present a pitch, and you might be up against some other people, and then you get the go-ahead, and then you start talking about invoicing and delivery and all that sort of thing. So the cycle of sales might be different depending on your business, but they are two very different things. And when you close the door on the marketing room and step over here and walk into the sales room, we're now talking about one customer at a time. It might be very quick. You might handle 20 customers in a day, but they are handled one person at a time. And the better you get at doing that, the more likely you are to build a sustainable business that survives and thrives, because every single customer is going to feel like a real person who's being treated like a real person, not a number, and they're going to love you for it. And that's your superpower, by the way, as a small business owner, is to be close to customers who love you and then refer you, because that's the gold standard in small business, is to get word of mouth PR that follows you around, so you don't have to spend money on Google and Facebook or other things. Big business, Coles, Woolies, and you're an organic fruit shop down the corner. Don't play their game. Don't have big signs up here, discounted organic bananas, blah, blah, blah. Try and go up against them. You're not going to win that game. We're not going to win the game against KPMG or PwC or these guys who've got 25,000 consultants and have got great relationships with government and turning over billions of dollars, right? We're going to do our job, but we're going to be close to our customers and really understand our customers well. Please don't play the game against the gorilla in the room. If you do, you're going to lose. Unless you can find a niche or something that you can go up against them and be better at it. You might get some business from a big... I have big business. I have $2.5 billion turnover businesses that come to me for a specific thing. My ability to be able to facilitate a room and collect stories and tell stories about individual leaders in a business is something that I do very well. And I think I'm better at it than some of the big consulting firms. And they will call me in to do that bit. I might be working alongside somebody from PwC who's running models on the business and organisational behaviour and blah, 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 blah. And they're great at that. I don't want to touch it because I don't have the resources and I don't have the expertise. So in selling, there's two things you have to do. Am I getting the right leads? And if not, go and talk to the marketing guy. I know that might be you. Put the hat on, marketing guy, you're doing a shit job. Every person I speak to is a tyre kicker and they want my service for cheap and blah, 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 blah. Price, cheap, all these things I'm talking about, low value, volume. That's Coles and Woolies. Let's leave Coles and Woolies alone, or whoever the Coles and Woolies is in your market. I want you to focus on premium service, high margin, low volume, low in related to your business. It might be 1,000 cups of coffee, not 20,000 cups of coffee at the local McDonald's, whatever. Work out, but be about margin. You will be less stressed if you focus on less customers and higher margin, whatever your game is. If you can work out how to sell a $9 cup of coffee that's, I don't know, made with high mountain blue coffee and it's been run through a blower and a press and cold filtered and whatever it is, That's your game. Don't go, oh, we can sell $1 coffee, just like 7-Eleven or McDonald's, because it's just not, you're not going to win. They're going to have better buyers, they're better suppliers, they've got faster logistics and distribution. If you focus on that, you will be less stressed. And by the way, I've had that stress. I had a marketing business. We were the biggest pure marketing agency in Australia for a while, but we were dealing with a lot of clients who were tyre kickers and they wanted cheap service and wanted to pay us $40 an hour for our marketing assistants and blah, 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 blah. And I just went, nah, not doing that anymore, because now I'm lying awake. And by the way, they wanted to pay me in 120 days or 180 days. I'm sure all that struck a chord, didn't it? Yeah. So now I only deal with clients who are pay on time, in fact up front mostly, who are small business owners like me, who have a decision-making control and who care about what I do and who know that I care about them. So get rid of all of that. Money. Second biggest issue for most small businesses, very quickly on this one. Key things are, you have to know what money in your account is yours. The biggest issue most small businesses get into, they've got $20,000 in their account, and they go, great, I'll go and buy a new car or a computer or whatever else. Well, you can't buy a car for 20 grand, let's say 50. Anyway, they get to the point where they've realised they've spent money that should have been set aside for super and tax. So simple strategies, but if you want to manage money well, first of all, you have to be high margin, low volume, because you're going to make money out of every transaction. You'll have enough to survive on, and then apportion it where it needs to go straight away. If you're putting GST on your invoices, when it comes in, take that $100 from the $1,000 invoice, put in another account, and don't ever touch it until you have to give it to the ATO. Of the 10,000 businesses we've surveyed, probably 8,000 or 9,000 of them had some problem with that at some point. As an employee, when you get your pay, the money you receive is yours. It's all yours. The tax has already been paid, the super's already been paid, it's yours. You can spend whatever you like, work out your budgets. As a business, it's not all yours, because there's insurance and there's rent and there's supplies and there's blah, 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 and all these sort of things. So really just make sure what money is yours. That's the one tip I want to give you. Okay, people. Now, Chris said 67% of people, business owners, don't employ staff. Does that mean you don't have to manage people? You manage yourself for a start. You have a description as a business owner, which is actually, to keep it simple, to spend time in each of these 8 rooms. Your job description is to say, I need to spend time in all my 8 rooms. You need those skills. If you don't have skills in people or money or quality control or whatever, get them. You know, learn a bit about those things, because you're going to have to control them. So managing people, you've got an accountant that you outsource to, you've got a marketer who's doing your social media, you've got your customers. All of these are people. You have to manage them. And people management is one of the rooms people get into trouble with. So the very simple thing with the people room is everyone has a job. You including must have a job description. I don't care whether it's 2 lines, you have to have a job description, and you have to have a way of measuring your performance in regard to that job. Whether it's your accountant, your marketer, your banner supplier, your caterer, it doesn't really matter if they're a staff member or not. Give them a job. Tell them how they're going. Tell them when they're not doing the job. Train them. Improve them. If they're still not doing the job, find somebody else. Because if you don't, this room will bite you like none other. Often we're reasonably good at handling ourselves, sometimes we're not, but as soon as we start to involve other people, we need to take control of that situation. And we have to be really good humans in regards to it as well. You know, if you bring somebody on board as a staff member, respect them by telling them what you want them to do and then measure them. Make it very clear and controlled. You can run a really nice team if everyone knows what's going on and they know how they're being measured.
Could I just perhaps add one quick point to the people bit, and that is, even if you've got nobody working for you, managing your supply chains are as important as managing your own staff. So building relationships with the people that bring things to you and deliver things to you is critical, because one day you're going to need them like you've never needed anybody. Because you've run short of money, you've got a customer who needs something urgently, and that relationship you've built with those people will save your soul. Yeah, exactly. The guy that prints my banners I've been using for about 15 years, and he is just a delightful human being. He is very, very good at his job.
I never have to worry whether something's going to be missed or something's going to break because he'll fix it. And I have had occasions where I've had to ring him on a Saturday night and say, hey, I've just had L'Oreal or some big organisation want 10 banners and they need them by lunchtime tomorrow because they stuffed up with their planning, but can you help me out? And 9 o'clock the next morning, those banners arrive at my place and I can go and deliver to the client. This guy's gold. So surround yourself with gold. A friend of mine says, if you're going to soar with the eagles, don't hang around with turkeys. So if you have a supplier who's not doing their job, irrespective of whether they seem to be the only person you can do, just try and find somebody else or retrain them or give them a job description or tell them how you're going to measure them, but just take control over it, because otherwise you're going to end up being, oh, poor me, I've got people problems and everything's a problem. This is all what I'm trying to do, is put you back and control and cause over these things, because if you don't, then you end up being a victim of it, and then it's just not fun being a business owner. I've had my sleepless nights where I couldn't work out what was going on, etc., etc. Client service. I have maybe a dozen clients at any one time, so I don't have a lot of scheduling issues to handle. I have things that need to be done in a particular month, and those things get done, whether it's an advertising campaign, social media, or a workshop that needs to be delivered, whatever else. But the businesses I speak to who are in trouble haven't actually planned out how they're going to service their clients, whether it's a dozen or 200 or whatever. Now, yes, you can use technology. If you do have a business that deals in lots of particles, like you might have, I don't know, 500 orders for a hamper, and all of those hampers have got 15 ingredients, and you've got the box and the wrapping and whatever else and the postage, there's things that have to happen. So you need to work out what the flow is from order to delivery for your business. There's a company called Platinum Electrics. You should check it out online. They're one of the biggest and fastest growing electrical contractors group in Australia, because they do the opposite of every other electrician in Australia. They turn up, beautiful clothes, name on the clothes, boots come off 5 minutes early. They never walk on the grass at the clients. They always walk up the driveway. They respectfully greet. They clean up after themselves. They don't leave all of the bits that they've cut off, whatever. If they notice anything in the house that's broken while they're there fixing it, like a light bulb that's out or an LED, they'll fix it. They don't charge for it. They'll just say on the way out, oh, I saw a light was out, I've just fixed that for you, blah, blah, blah. Cleaned up, bagged up, tidied, vacuumed, out. Wow. Anyone just feel, oh, wouldn't it be nice if I had a tradie like that? I had a guy come to sand the floors of my house once, and we went away for a week, because when you get the floors sanded, it smells like crap for a week. So I said, just sand it, leave the windows open, we'll be back in a week. I get back in a week, I come in, it's all beautifully done, that's all fine. But out, hidden in the garden, on the side of the house, was 6 bags of sand, the shavings of the wood, a couple of half-empty paint tins, or the stuff he was painting on, the pole, the woolen things he was painting with, and it was in my garden, like on top of the plants. I was like, oh my God, how do you get good help around here? Anyway, the point is, you, as a business owner, have a promise that you've made. You've run an ad, it promises something, right? Somebody goes, oh, I wouldn't mind getting my hair cut there. Well, not me, but anyway. I wouldn't mind getting my lawn mowed by Bill, or my windows cleaned by Andrew. Andrew arrives, he's respectful, he does it on time, he cleans up, he takes some photos, he shares and communicates with me that he's done, he goes away, everything's happy, it's been solved. My full window, my gutters are all clean, my windows are clean. That's the way we've got to try and operate as a small business, particularly if we're going for high margin, high value as small business owners, because that requires delivery on a promise. And it's where businesses have troubles. I was going to say something else then, but I'm glad I didn't, because we are online. Am I really delivering my promises? Do you know? Something gets delivered to a client and you go, great, it got delivered. That's fine, physically, but was everything in it? Was the client 7 out of 10 happy? Let's check. Hey, your box arrived today. How was it? Oh, it was great, but you missed out the blah, blah, blah. Oh, cool, we'll send those. Now the client's 10 out of 10 happy because you've not only rang them and said, hey, how's everything going? It's good, I fixed it. We'll all make mistakes, but if you recover from them or you're proactively finding them, clients will love you. There's no doubt. I mean, we've all had experiences of tradies like I did, and you didn't get another job. But Andrew, who cleans the windows, every time. Ez, who prints my banners, 15 years. I think that's a testament of him being a very, very good business owner as well as being a very, very good printer. And we've probably printed, you know, maybe we only do one or two, but I've had L'Oreal and BlueScope and NAB as clients, and we've printed hundreds of banners. So he's got some good revenue out of it, but he only got there because he delivered on the promises. So the last room. I'm coming back to my time and space analogy here because I want to just remind you that you do have the power to create time and space for yourself. And believe it or not, what I've shared today, these 8 rooms are all designed to help you create time and space for yourself. If you're able to spend a bit of time in each room and plan, what's my cash flow, what's my budget, who am I recruiting, have I got job descriptions, am I having regular meetings with them to keep them up to speed, have I spoke to my customers to know what their behaviours and attitudes are so that I can plan the right marketing, am I getting good response to my marketing, am I spending $1 and getting 10, or am I spending 10 and getting 1, not a good example of marketing. But this is really critical. We live in a high-paced, fast, technology-oriented world. Just a few weeks ago, a product called ChatGPT got launched. I'm sure you've all heard about it. I think most people have gone insane talking about it, but because it's just another tool. It's just another tool. But you have to be aware of these tools in relation to your business, all right? I don't want you to get dispersed by something that's happening over there in the insulation market and being worried about people if you're not in that market. Just have your lane, be an expert, be the best person in Campbelltown, or the best person in Mornington in Victoria, or the best person in Brisbane at what you do, or the best person in your street at what you do. That comes from knowing these 8 rooms. Because the more you know these, the more skilled you are, the more time and space you have. And what can you use that time and space for? I don't know, spend some time with your family. Learn how to play the guitar. You know, go out and have a bushwalk. Have a nice meal with your husband or wife. You know, do a bit of exercise. Have a chat with your staff. Go out for lunch with your staff and get them excited about the next few months. Less of, oh shit, I'm stressed about blah, 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 and more of, I got this under control. And you all have the ability to do that. I really want you to know that because it's not complicated. There's 8 rooms. You don't have to do a dissertation or a 4-year marketing degree to understand that I can talk to some customers and find out what they need and want. We can all do that. It's just communication. So you can all do it. You don't have to stress so much about having to be perfect, but if you go into these 8 rooms, I can tell you that if you do spend time in those 8 rooms, you will improve the chance of success because those rooms won't come back to bite you because you've done a bit of pre-prepared planning. Will things go to shit? Sometimes, yes. Also, don't beat yourself up for that because the pandemic happened, right? Could any of us control that? No. We couldn't. Our response we can control. But don't beat yourself up about the fact that a pandemic happened. Give yourself the kudos to say, well, you sat down and you went from having people sitting in your cafe to doing packed meals for them to take home, which my friend George at Goodfield's Cafe in Linfield did. Within about 2 days, the doors were shut. He couldn't serve anyone, but he had a little thing you could go and order your coffee and they'd hand it out, you know, in nice one. And they also had home meals, you know, beautifully cooked Greek-based home meals. And he survived. He kept every one of his staff members on. His responsibility to his community was unbelievable. You know, I love the guy, and he's a cafe owner. It's not as if he's family, but he has become a friend because I thought, well, this guy's onto something. He's got some control over his life. Now, he might just as well have gone out of business and started something else. And, you know, some businesses are going to fail, and maybe one of your businesses will fail too, but at least by using some of these tools, you're going to give yourself the best crack at having some success at survive first if you need to, get the emergency operations in place, and then move to normal operations and do what you set out to do. Make the business your servant, not the other way around, because that's really important too. As business owners, it's there to do a job. Financial security, it's not there to be our Lord and Master either. Because you are humans, by the way, and I'd like to see you being able to go out and have a bushwalk and play a guitar or a piano or do these things or support your community or go to church and get your spiritual enhancement, because all those things are really important to life and the community. If it's just about business and just about $1 million revenue at 10% margin, I think we should all pack up and go and do something else. Okay? All right, thanks very much. Cheers.
Could you just grab those? That's fantastic, Hunter. Lots of experience. I'll just remind the audience that's in the room that you'll have a chance, of course, to chat with the panellists at the end of the live stream session. So at the moment, now what we're going to do is I'm going to invite our 4 panellists, including Hunter, to come to the front and grab a chair. It doesn't matter particularly which chair, so I'll ask Rolf and Brian and Ngareta and Hunter to grab a seat here, please. And I'm going to introduce Rolf Fuchs first. So be ready.
No worries.
So we've got 4 fantastic panellists, all with a wonderful degree of independent and different work and life experiences. It doesn't get much better than that. There are no commonalities really through this, except each of them in their own way has overcome their own challenges to be successful. So Rolf, starting with you. So Rolf's aim is to help people have a positive mindset and to be able to focus their attention on the goals that are important to them. So you can see here we're building on some of Hunter's themes. And one of the things that Rolf has learned as a coach is the importance of clear and positive communication. He's got a passion for helping people. He's raised a child with autism who's grown into a confident, self-sufficient adult who travels overseas on his own. His younger son has type 1 diabetes and does not let that exclude him from life. Rolf's worked hard with a range of clients, guiding their personal growth and confidence and assisting with presentation skills ranging from high school students to elected officials. And he believes that everyone who's able should actively look to make a contribution to our society. So, Rolf, coming to your question. Rolf, you're a sole trader. What was your motivation to enter self-employment? Perhaps just tell us about that journey. What were your greatest challenges? And what were some of the things you did to overcome those challenges?
No, thanks very much, Chris. I jokingly talk about my son saying that I blame him for me going into business. While I look back at the people that he started to go to school with, he started off in a satellite class of a special needs school, and my wife is a very determined person, and she wasn't happy just to say, okay, doctor, what do we do? Let's follow this, follow that. She scoured the world for answers, and we probably pretty much threw everything at him. But the changes in him were immense. It pretty much sent us broke. We refinanced a few times. We threw everything at him, but he got to the point where he started to throw everything at himself as well. He got on board. And to see where he ended up compared to the other people that he started school with that didn't go down that track, it blows your mind. And it just proved to me beyond a point, beyond any doubt, that you can change. We can change the way we think, we can change the way we behave, we can change the way we believe in ourselves. And that's what he's done. I've got a text from him now, he just got called into work again. So, but the changes that he has found, and from that, yep, we were in a difficult position, but I was determined that I didn't want to sit in front of a computer in IT anymore, writing a report that was going to frustrate somebody over in Europe. I wanted to work with people because I could see the changes. But to do that, I knew I had to work on myself as well. And that was part of the beauty of training to be a coach, is you do so much work on yourself. He gave me a lot of belief in what you can do, which gave me a lot of belief in what I can do. So I've made those changes, and that's where I really get my joy these days, is seeing people make changes, to do different things. And go back to one of Hunter's slides about managing people, managing yourself. And I would say a lot of people don't do it very well. A lot of business owners don't always particularly do it very well. And I get business owners coming to me and they procrastinate, but they don't realise they procrastinate. They're worried about how they do things. And it's a matter of getting them to go back and think about what they're doing and being aware of what you do. The biggest tool you've got is that little voice in your head. Whether you like to admit you've got it or not, we all have that voice in our head. And it can be our worst enemy or it can be our biggest ally. I try and turn that around, get people to be aware of it and make it their biggest ally. And I think that is where you really succeed. Whether it's in business, in family or whatever, it's what you do, the decisions you make and how you follow through on those decisions will determine how you succeed in the future. And I think that's sort of what's really driven me to go into the field that I went into. At one point it was IT, I enjoyed it, I've travelled overseas with it or whatever, but I get far more joy sitting over a table in a cafe, sharing a coffee with somebody and helping them and hearing about their successes and knowing that I've had something to do with that and seeing that their business improve, but more importantly, often it's their relationships will improve with it. Firstly, their relationship with themselves, and that will flow through to the relationship with others. And I don't believe there'd be a drug on earth that could beat that feeling. And that's what drives me to do what I do.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So, sounds like a bit of a rant, sorry, but but it's a passion. And I think that's what you need to do. You need to plug into a passion.
Yeah. And I think it could be some words that were missing from my introduction that, unless we're motivated, unless we love doing what we're doing and we've got some knowledge, we are going to struggle. And passion is the first of those things. What gets you out of bed at 5 o'clock in the morning is not that you've got a job, it's that you love doing what you're doing.
Yep.
And Hunter's spoken to the time management piece, which underpinned everything he was talking about, but you spoke to it as well. Look, it's now my pleasure to introduce our third panellist, which is Brian Laul. Brian, a journalist, a theatre person, musician, entrepreneur, social worker. Brian has meant different things to different people through a colourful career that has been the subject of documentaries, book chapters and prestigious awards. And actually, most recently, he was honoured by being named Campbelltown's Citizen of the Year for 2023. Yeah. He's a successful small business owner, having run Oz Funland in Lemire for the past 15 years with his wife Christine and son Christopher. He's also producer of the Wizard of Oz interactive show that has completed 5,000 performances internationally. 5,000 performances internationally. And he said to me just the other night, about 500 regional performances in Australia, and I know contributed to people development in those regional towns so that it would support future productions for future shows. He's passionate about the business benefits of community, arts patronage, fostering multicultural understanding at the grassroots level, and helping young people achieve their true potential. He's chairperson of Rainbow Crossing Incorporated, founder of the Young Champions Awards, Macarthur Multicultural Children's Festival and Community News Service, Good Morning Macarthur, so you probably know Brian if you're local, and serves as Vice President of the Greater Cumberland Chamber of Commerce. So, Brian, my question to you is, you are one of Australia's best kept secrets, truly. I mean, I did not know until I met you, of course, that you'd run 5,000 performances globally. But I'd like you to tell us a bit about your personal story, and I've chosen this as your sort of question because I know you've got a strong family engagement in running your business. You have a lot of support from your family. Tell us how and why this has been instrumental in your own success.
Well, thank you, Chris. I think to start with, to me, well, my wife and I, we've never known it any other way. We've always worked together from the day we met. In every enterprise I've done, business-wise, we have worked together. And now my son, he's 27, 28 now, works with us. We've often been asked, how can you guys get on the whole day and then go home and still get on? Believe me, I think we get it out, we argue during the day, so when we go home, it's all peaceful. But I think the strength of everyone is the support network that they have around them. In my case, it's family first, and then it's community. When we've traveled, as Chris said, yes, I have traveled globally pretty extensively. But we've always traveled as a family. I have never traveled on a performance tour on my own. I wouldn't find my clothes in the morning. Or I'd find them and they'd be awfully crushed. But I think it's the support network that's important, and extending from that, I think community becomes your family too. I couldn't accomplish what I've accomplished in Campbelltown if I did not have the support of the community around me. And I think, you know, if you're looking at my own story, I was a journalist, okay, so far away from what I'm doing now. But as a journal, I started like young, straight out of school, and then while I was in uni, I was also writing for the Morning Daily, which I later worked for. And I've interviewed, before the age of about 22 or 23, I've interviewed global leaders in their fields. I mean, Mother Teresa, Muhammad Ali, Bob Geldof. Yeah, I can reel off a whole lot of names of people who I have had the pleasure of sitting with and talking. And one thing which Ali said really comes to my mind. You know, when I said, you know, people call you the greatest, Muhammad, you know, why? He looked at me, he was puzzled. He looked at me and he went, what? He said, because I am the greatest. You know, what a dumb question, in other words. But you know, that says something to each one of us, because, and I go back to what Hunter and Rolf said about passion and time and purpose. And, you know, if we take the time to believe in ourselves, it's not just believing in ourselves, okay? So if we take the time to believe in ourselves, anything is possible, honest to God. I came to Australia not because I wanted to continue being a journalist. That's why I came to Australia. I never knew I'd stay this long. Just came for fun. Have a look at the place. But I wanted to pursue children's theatre. That was a hobby, which I couldn't pursue because I was stuck in this journalistic wheel. And I wanted to pursue that. Came here, went and saw a show in North Sydney at the Independent Theatre. It was Jungle Book, I still remember, because I didn't know where North Sydney was. I thought I could walk from Campbelltown. In a 20-minute walk I'll reach there. So don't be stupid, it's an hour and a half by train if the trains are running on time. And then I told my wife, we were sitting there, and I said, I'm going to book this theatre. So a couple of days later, I did walk into the Independent Theatre, and I said, I want to meet the theatre manager. I want to do a show here. I want to book the theatre. Looked at me and he said, well, have you done anything in Australia? I said, no, I've just come in a couple of weeks back, but lovely theatre, I want to book it. Okay, do you have the money? How much? We won't go there. But anyway, because all migrants will tell you, when you first reach, you're calculating back in your own currency. $1, 60 bucks. Damn! All right. What show are you going to do? I'm going to do The Wizard of Oz. He goes, Wizard of Oz, so many people have done it. I said, no, this is my own version. I've written a version of The Wizard of Oz meant for now. The Tin Man's a rapper. The Scarecrow's a country guy. The Wicked Witch is a rocker. He looked at me and you can see disgust building up on his face. All right? A couple of minutes later, he tells me, listen, let me stop you. He says, A, nobody is going to want to watch that performance when they're used to The Wizard of Oz with, you know, somewhere over the rainbow, tra-la-la-la-la. Number two, and I say this very seriously because this is what I was confronted with. He said, no person of color has ever booked this theater before. 1997. Right? So I looked at him, I probably yelled, or, you know, I'm not sure what I did, but I definitely got some attention. Became really good friends with the theater manager, the owner of the theater. Cut a long story short, played there, yes, we ran house full. 5,000 performances later, globally, we're still going. So much so for nobody wanting something new.
Yeah.
And that's what each one of us can do. Yes, I know taking on the gorilla in the room is a touchy thing, but if you find the chink in the armor, take on the bloody gorilla because you will win. But don't do it foolhardy, you know. It's not a foolhardy enterprise. Take on, sometimes you find the chink out of necessity. Like when we're playing at the SEMO Center, I've got to say this because having said take on the gorilla, I've got to say why. We were playing at the SEMO Center with The Wizard of Oz. Advertised. I did not know that the Lyric Theatre was going to be doing The Wizard of Oz that year. You'll remember with Nikki Webster, those of you all who follow theatre.
Yeah.
Right, same year, same month, we've advertised. The first ad has gone up. Call from the Lyric Theatre, the SEMO Center. How dare you advertise The Wizard of Oz? You're in breach of this, you're in breach of that. I said, you're in breach of nothing. It's my show, go and get stuffed. So, they've got a huge cast. The biggest names in local musical theatre at that time. What do I have? A few people who've answered an ad in the Sydney Morning Herald saying actors wanted. Okay? But I'm committed to open. I've signed with all these actors. I've signed with myself. I am going to do this. Now there's the gorilla in the room. I got on the trusty internet and spoke to some friends in the US who had friends, who had friends, who had friends. End of the day, a couple of days later, I was on the phone talking to one of the original cast members of the 1939 MGM movie, Margaret Pellegrini, who played the flower pot munchkin. Right? Well-known person, if you Google her.
Yeah.
Spoke to her, we started talking. I told her honestly where we were at. I said, Margaret, I need you down in Sydney. Lo and behold, I sent her the flight ticket. She came down with her great-granddaughter. I just wanted her to speak at the opening of my show because that was the chink in the armor. I could get all this media for the cost of that air ticket. She not only came and spoke at the show, she even acted in it. Bonus. All right, God bless the gorilla, but we did well. So, yeah, but please believe in yourself. I would say, just have the initiative to find that time to make that belief a reality. You cannot go wrong if you're passionate about it and if you approach it the right way with logic.
Yeah, well, we can't ask for more than that, can we? Well done. If anyone was in any doubt as to why that man's been successful, you've just got the answer. I was going to ask you a follow-up question, but I'm not going to now. It'll come later. So now it's my great pleasure to introduce one of my great friends in this part of the world, Ngareta. Now, Ngareta, of course, works for APM. She's an accountant by trade, which is why I've got a size 6 font description of what she does. Now, I've got to try and read this, which, you know, at my age is quite a challenge. Anyway, she's done her MBA at Sydney University. She's a CPA qualified in auditing. She worked with Hayes in recruitment, Morgan and Banks. I actually know those people. She's worked at Clorox, Green Foods, Toys R Us, OPSM. She's been everywhere. And then after that, she became a small business coach and trainer. And then she worked, well, this is a tough one, and inside the Parkley Drug Testing Centre, which is the women's prison, for those that don't know. And she had an amazing small business program that she'd heard about called NICE, which is now called the Self-Employment Assistance Program, which we'll come to a little bit later on. And soon she was recruited in to help deliver that program. She then ended up, I'm not quite sure how, but she ended up in Shanghai in China to lecture business students at Shanghai University. In those days, they could earn a degree from UTS without even leaving China. She returned to Australia in mid-2018, and commenced her role with APM, or what is now APM. And she's helped more than 400 business owners each year deliver their own success. She loves the aspirational ability of small business because she's witnessed the success from, beginnings to through to growth. Look, I think that's probably enough there. Let's then go to the question. Ngareta, you've been in business for probably a few decades, working for large organisations, work for yourself, train people to run small businesses through the federal government's self-employment assistance program. Could you share some examples of how your work and the program has helped entrepreneurs find success and how they found that success?
Sure. Have you heard of the band Powderfinger?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And the award-winning singer Courtney Barnett, the game Fruit Ninja. Yeah, so they're all examples of businesses that have come through the Self-Employment Assistance Program, now formerly called NICE. The program's been running for almost 38 years, longest running government-funded program in the world of its type, and other governments around the world have tried to copy it. Very successful. It provides a lot of support in the first 12 months. So the support is, help to get a business plan and financial tables done, which act as a roadmap for your business success, and 12 months of business mentoring. So it's really powerful because, we all know that we have self-doubt, we all have different issues like fear of failure, or we might feel like an imposter, many reasons to block our success. And as we've learnt today from the rest of the panel members, we get to choose. So the program really helps us make good choices because we get support. So success looks differently to different people. So there's a woman that's been on the program a number of years ago now. She had 3 children, 1 at school and 2 little boys at home. She was a graphic designer. She'd worked in Dubai, originally from Mumbai. And she wanted to start working, but had these little boys at home. And so she joined the program. She did really well for a number of years. And then one of her clients asked her to come and work for them. That's very common. And last year she was made the marketing director for this organisation. She's only young, she's in her mid-40s now, and it's a really well-known organisation. It's awesome. And success can also, it's very individual. There's another woman, 2 little boys, twins. She wanted to be at home with them to do their school work, to go to the reading groups, and the program allowed her to do that. She's an artist. When the boys go to bed, then she finishes her art. So she feels really fulfilled and very successful, and her children are being raised in the way that she wants them raised. There's a guy that we have on the program at the moment. He's 62 years old, long, successful career in corporate, and he wants to continue to giving back to the community. So it's a very flexible program. It's all over Australia. There's a number of different providers that have the program. We're just one of them. It works with other programs like the Entrepreneurship Facilitator service. And it's marvellous. I recommend you look it up, Self-Employment Assistance. And yeah.
And I know that you've been
Oh,
working with
Donna,
Donna as
yeah.
well. Perhaps you'd
Yeah,
like to tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so in the room we have one of our mentors, Liz, down the back there. Fantastic member of our team. I said to Liz a little while ago, you know, we're growing. Do you have anyone that you're mentoring that you think would be a good mentor for our team? We needed a part-time mentor as part of our growth. And Liz said, yeah, we've got this lady, her name's Donna. She's got her own business. She's got a long career history in corporate. She wanted to do something different. She studied to be a business coach, a coach, and she started her own business to help women, mature women, to get their voice back and get their confidence back. And so actually it was at your Christmas function that I met Donna early December last year, and we just had a chat, and then I met her later in the week, and she's the right fit for our team. So Donna runs her own business 3 days a week, 35 hours a week at least, and then 2 days a week she's a mentor for us. So that's the other feature of the program. You can work part-time to earn other income so that you've got money coming in while you're setting up the business, which can take a while and you need to be patient. Yep.
So Donna, perhaps you'd like to just tell us a little bit from your point of view about that experience and what's helped you to sort of step into this world where you've now got, you know, more employment and more hours, and, you know, what are the triggers for your success?
I'd say the business, the NICE or the SEEP program was the best thing. Sorry, I'm a bit nervous, but I'm not a public speaker by no means.
It's only a few hundred people, don't worry.
As Ngareta said, my background's finance, things like that. One day after 25 years of working in finance, I just went, I'm sick of being in a box. I don't want this life anymore. I need something more. So I decided to leave. Joined with the Life Coaching College, basically got my master in coaching. I have my own small business, and as Ngareta said, working with her for 2 days a week, and I also work for Suzanne Gray when they need me whenever on a retail basis, but it's just having the flexibility, having the not boxing myself in. You know, society is so big on, you know, you do this, you do this, you do this, and you're frowned upon if you don't do that. I don't believe in that anymore. You mentioned the same thing, your passion, what gets you up of a morning. And damn, this, you know, working with Ngareta and the team, and Liz is a beautiful mentor, you know. I mean, even Deb, I've met through the program, through Business Connect. I've got to mention that as well. Like I said, I'm shaking a bit, but at the same time, I feel very, very privileged to be doing what I'm doing.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, that's great. So let's just segue into perhaps an unrelated topic. I'm going to just perhaps throw this to the panel. I do have a question for Hunter, but I'm just giving him a bit of a break. So, you know, when we talk about scaling businesses, you know, people come to me with all sorts of ideas. You know, I'm going to crowd fund, I'm going to, you know, well, often the inquiries are, I've got a great idea for a business, I don't have a job, and I need to find my options for money, right? So is there a silver bullet there for people who don't have money, who want to start their business? How, you know, and let's just take that conversation through to perhaps talking about banks and sources of funding. Does anyone want to sort of just have a crack at, you know, how people should fund their business? Hunter, do you want to perhaps start with that?
Sure. I would say that for most small businesses with an idea to start a business, funding is probably not going to be available from the traditional sources. Banks are unlikely to fund or loan new money without a really solid business plan, which you're going to have to spend time doing anyway. You're unlikely to be able to get an angel investor or, one of those clubs to invest, because they're mostly looking for the next Atlassian software or the next, you've probably heard the term unicorn, $1 billion business. And in fact, most of the even state and federal government funding for startups is very focused on tech, new enterprise, scalable businesses where they're looking for a very large business. Now, as we've seen from the stats, most businesses don't get very large. 67% employ no people, 97% employ less than 20. So it's, you know, it doesn't mean that some person can come up with an amazing thing and take it globally. I'm not saying that, but for the majority of businesses, the best source of funding is going to be yourself, potentially family, or just building up some reserves while you work, or working part-time while you do it on a gradient. And that's funding, because you're funding your financial security whilst you grow this amazing idea that you have. Recognising that the majority of the ideas that you have may well be a small bit, may well end up being a small business by percentage. So that means it might end up turning over a couple of $100,000, it might turn over $500,000, it might turn over $1 million, somewhere in that sort of vicinity. And again, I'm talking about averages. I don't want to quash anyone's amazing idea that suddenly becomes $1 billion enterprise, but you're not going to be able to go to an angel investor or these sort of startup organisations, Startup Vic as an example, because they're looking for a particular type of business that's going to scale and to a certain extent give them some PR that they found the next Atlassian.
Yeah. And look, I think, if I could just maybe add that, I think this is where purpose is really important. And we've got a lot of North Coast audience on board today, which is great. And, you know, in those communities, typically people are very driven by purpose. And so, you know, if growth is not really what you're looking for, if that's not the purpose for your business, then clearly this is not a choice you'd take. So I think you need to make sure there is alignment between what you want to do and what you've chosen to do. Brian, would you like to add anything to that?
Well, I agree with every word that Hunter just said. In our case, when we had to set up Oz Funland, it needed a capital, which I never had in the bank at that time. And I knew I did go to the bank just for the sake of doing it, and I knew what they're going to say. Put your house up and you can borrow against it, bullshit. So I said, this is how much I need so I phased out the project. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. So this is how much I need to start phase 1 and get it running. So I found an alternative source of income by working on another project that was going to give me enough profit to fund phase 1. And then say my prayers and hope phase 2 takes off from there. But still not letting go of that funding opportunity, so that if phase 1 didn't meet the financial requirement, I'm not on my bum. I can still bring in from there. And believe me, we did that successfully, and I endorse every word you said.
That's great. Yeah, I love that segue into sort of employment as a way of funding what you're doing. You know, I know it's not everyone's choice, but you know, it's pretty tough to start a business and have positive cash flow inside 2 or 3 years, right, Ganesh? Yeah. So, you know, it's important to make sure that you've got some sort of employment to fund the start and growth of your business. Ngareta, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I'm bursting to say a few
Oh, good.
So there's some fantastic programs out there that are free. So the self-employment assistance program is free. The Entrepreneurship Facilitator program is free. There's a whole bunch of state programs that are free. Yeah. There's so much out there. The other thing I would say is generally when people start up their own small business, it's very common for it to be a service-based business, which you're just exchanging your time. And very often sitting at the dining room table with a laptop is all you need. You don't need a whole lot of capital. And it's sort of about, I would be questioning if you're doubting yourself, it could be just about your own self-doubt, because you don't need much capital to be sitting at the dining room table with your laptop. Yeah. So there are, research indicates that it's much better for a small business to start out like that. You learn if you don't do your invoicing very quickly for a couple of $100 and chase it, you learn that lesson very quickly. It's much better learning that at a couple of $100 than a couple of thousand. So if you start small and grow organically, that you learn things along the way, because you make mistakes, and that's when you really learn, when you make mistakes. Yeah?
Yep, that's good.
I was going to say, there's some other ways to fund, and I'm not talking about money here, but funding with your time.
Yep.
I was running a successful marketing business for 15 or 16 years, which is Blue Frog. When I started Silver and Wise, I did that at night outside of Blue Frog's time. I still kept that business running. I didn't sacrifice my time in the success of that. I would have dinner, and then every evening, pretty much for about 2 years, 2,000 hours I invested in that. I'm pretty conservative. I researched it a lot to build the offer and to survey people's needs before I even I mean, Chris was probably one of the first people to know what we were planning because we had a few chats about it, but there was no public, so I funded with the time. The other thing is partnering with people who also target that audience. Now, for example, you want to mow lawns, small capital, lawnmower, hedge trimmer, whippersnipper, a bit of petrol, maybe a trailer and a car. That's a small investment, but you could partner with the guy who cleans windows, doesn't mow lawns. He has a client database who's always asking him, do you know anyone good lawnmowers? And all of a sudden you've got a marketing channel. One customer at a time. That's one thing I also say to people is when they first start a small business, think one customer at a time. Really get them to love you. Get the next. And suddenly you'll have 3 and then 6 and then 9 and 12 and 24 and whatever. You'll be at capacity and then you'll be hiring someone to mow the next suburb over because you worked it out. So don't fall into the trap of worrying about the first 10,000 customers and the $1 million revenue. Get the foundation really, and that's not going to take a lot of time. You can do it 1 day a week.
Yeah.
You could be working for someone, as you were, and then you could say, well, listen, boss, I know I've been working 5 days a week for the last 20 years, but I'm up to here, and I want to start transitioning over the next couple of years to my own thing. And if you've got the right kind of employer, they'll say, that's fantastic. Why don't we move you to 4 days a week for this quarter, and then you can go to 3, 2, 1, and you can let me know how I'm going. And if you've got the right type of employer, they could be very enlightened to that. And if they're not, well, fine, find another one.
Yeah, and I think you're mistaken if you think having your own business is going to be easy.
No, that's true.
All right, it's very challenging, and you get to keep all the profits, and you get to take all the risks, and you get to be in charge of your own time. So someone explained it to me years ago that, a really good way to start your business, exactly like Hunter said, is imagine, Tarzan with the vines in the jungle. Yeah. He doesn't let go of that vine until he's got the next one. Yeah, don't let go of the vine. So keep with your job, keep getting paid every week, you'll need that. And you just do life tired and busy for a while. Yeah, until you've got a critical mass. Yeah. And I did a similar thing with my recruitment business. A whole bunch of us left Morgan & Banks at once, and we referred each other. We were all specialists. Someone was sales and marketing, someone was accounting, and we'd refer each other. And once the recruitment, it was executive recruitment, once the role was filled, then we'd pay each other. I think it was 15%. It was a while ago now. And we just had this lovely referral side business happening. We had our own businesses, and it sustained us while we were all growing and developing, and we trusted each other. There's leads clubs that you can start yourself or you can join. It might be in Parramatta in a coffee shop, and there's one accountant, one finance broker, plumber, one mortgage broker, one whatever. And you refer work to each other and you begin to trust each other. Like my accountant's in Parramatta. I've worked with his mortgage broker, I've worked with his finance advisor. You do that and you develop trust over time, and they become like your business support network. And you really do trust them like the sign guy. Yeah.
Rolf, I know you've got some thoughts as well.
Yeah, look, I totally agree. Like you could start working part-time. But if you're going to do it, it's a hard road. So chase something that you're passionate about. Make sure there's something you want to do that you're willing to make sacrifices to achieve. Yeah, that job that you're leaving is not really what's obviously not motivating you. It's not lighting your fire. So it doesn't have to be that job. It could be another part-time job, and that could actually help you in the motivation to build that business. So you want to find ways to make that business work. I think that's what it's all about. Light that fire and you'll put that extra effort in. So, like you say, and I agree, most of these businesses are service-based businesses. Make the mistakes early on, make them small, but grow it. Bring your passion to it. And a question I'd be putting to people, that are umming and ahhing about it, if not now, when? And in 5 years' time, if you haven't changed your situation from what you are now, how will you view it? Where do you want to see yourself? Do you want to be chasing that? Or in 5 years' time, do you want to go, wow, now I've got to start from scratch?
Yep.
Or I just give up on it. And those regrets are terrible later. You might not reach the heights you're thinking now, but if you get halfway there, you're further along, much further along the road than where you were before. It's like, shoot for the moon. If you fall short, you're still up amongst the stars.
So, thanks, Rolf. I'm going to ask Debbie a question. Debbie Roberts worked in local government. She's an absolute local identity around this part of the world, currently working with, collaborating with Western Sydney to deliver the Business Connect program in this region. So, Debbie, tell us a little bit about perhaps, what are some of the biggest challenges you've seen clients face and what's the best advice you've given them?
Put me on the spot.
I'm putting you
Caretaker
on the
mode,
spot. That's a moment for everyone else to think of a question. Yeah.
Number one, great panel. Even what people forget, even as an advisor and all of you that do similar types of things as I do in my own business, which is business consulting, we're all actual business owners ourselves.
Yeah.
So one of the challenges I find, and maybe some of you find, is we're really great at giving advice to others and then we've got to do it ourselves. And I suppose sometimes it's about getting out of my own way and, doing what I preach to others as such. Some of the common things that I do get very concerned about is people don't think about what their goal is. Like, what is the goal of the business? Maybe it is, and you've all touched on it, maybe it's just about a better lifestyle for your family. It's not necessarily about the money, but you need the money to have that financial goals. But what is the reason? So what is your why? Amazingly, a lot of people do think business is going to be easy, and it's not. But I must say, for me, having a long history working in not-for-profits, government, non-government, variety of different industries, I'm actually the healthiest and the happiest I've been, maybe not as rich, but I think that as you get older is very valuable that you have that time, because nobody's going to want to die and say, I died a millionaire but I had no friends or family or anything like that. Know your numbers. So many people do not think about their finances.
I love that segue. Where's the business case? So many people, I'm sure Debbie's had the same experience, Naomi, who delivers the program down at Barrel and South Coast. I was explaining this program to a friend who was a senior executive in NAB, ran all their overseas operations. He said, so you're really listening for people to give you their business case? I said, that's a great point, but I've never had one. So I think there is a message, we could send to the greater Australian audience there. Take a few minutes, build a business case, see if it looks good. And that's before you go to a bank. We're not talking about going to a bank. Build the business case in granular detail. What does my vision for the business look like 2 to 3 years from now? It's not the 7-year vision, Hunter just said the same thing. Let's keep it short term. What is it that I want from my life? How many days a week do I want to work? And how many clients would I need to meet that income objective? Where am I going to find those clients? And what sort of gross margin would I get if I got all that? And what net income after tax would I achieve? They're simple objectives, but you don't put the thought in, you won't really build a plan to achieve it. Thanks, Debbie. That's awesome. Any other questions from the audience? Ganesh, you've always got a question.
Thank you, Chris. Nice audience, great stories. I think love to hear all of you. Just first question to Rolf. I mean, you coach the people to bring their potential, as you say. But as we walk through life every day, obviously we deal with positive and negative everything, So how we can see ourselves without a mentor, say I'm doing the right things, or where I can see myself where I should be focusing on, or how can I say the things I'm doing now, that's not working, or
Right. Yep.
I need to be better.
Yeah, that's
how
good.
can how can we be our own coach?
Yeah, that's good. That's excellent.
That's one question.
That's a great question. Thanks, Ganesh. Yeah, and that's where I work on. Again, it's that self-awareness. It's the questions you ask yourself and the things you say to yourself. Yeah, are you saying that I keep stuffing up, I mess it up, I don't run my business well? Or is it the question is, wow, how do I get better results? How do I find that next client? How do I get my finances under control? How do I run my business better? It's asking positive questions of yourself, checking in with yourself, and everybody needs that support network at times. Whether it's your spouse, whether it's just you find an accountability buddy. It doesn't have to be somebody paid, somebody else, hopefully in business, that gets to understand. Yeah, I've got clients that they're not necessarily after me restructuring their business. It's just that their spouse is over the business. They don't have an employee they can talk to about it. They want to bounce things off somebody. And sometimes that's all it is, bouncing ideas off somebody, getting feedback, and just knowing that they're on the right track, or hopefully, getting some feedback to see if they're on the right track. It's about asking those questions of yourself. And I would recommend for everybody to seek some feedback at times.
Yeah.
Whether it's their business, whether it's their personal relationships, get some feedback on your relationship.
Yeah, very good. Brian, you've got some thoughts on that.
Yeah, just one line, it's cliched, but I need to remind everyone about it. And it's like, don't be afraid to seek help.
Right.
I mean, when I had remember I started one business to fund another. They're both successful today. But there comes a point of stagnation sometimes, personal stagnation. And you need that outside view. So what did? I called up Rolf. I mean, it's strange we're sitting on the same panel, but we've done heaps together after that. But I needed that external view of why the stagnation. So just, don't be afraid to ask for it.
Yeah, that's good, Brian. Oh, yeah, sorry, Ngareta,
I just wanted to say, I think something that's really important is you need to, as a business owner, get really good at encouraging yourself. So I've got Audible happening in the car all the time when I'm driving, podcasts, just read books, constantly be putting good stuff in. So when you do hit a plateau or self-doubt, that you've got this good stuff in you that can come out and encourage you. You've really got to get good at encouraging yourself. Yeah. And also, we're physiological beings, you can't, you do life busy and tired sometimes, but you can't do it for years. You'll end up getting sick that way, You've got to be balanced, you've got to go for a walk, you've got to drink plenty of water. All that basic stuff that seems basic is really, really important.
Yeah.
Second that. I think sometimes when we're looking at a business, we're looking at the problems in a business, and often we are the source of them because we haven't put the foundational stuff in. So we have money problems because we haven't put the work in to make sure we know what our cash flow situation is, that we're invoicing at the right time, that we're following up, that we're dealing with the right people who pay us on time, blah, blah, blah. But there is definitely that point of saying you are the engine room as a sole trader of a business. You are the driver of the business. And that's just not a compliance thing and a legal thing that you might end up in jail if you do the wrong thing. It is, are you fit? Are you well? Are you eating nutritiously? Are you exercising? These are fundamentals, and I'm really happy you said that these sort of things are like, there is no drug that can fix that. In fact, it should be a last resort, is that we have to put those fundamentals in for ourselves, and that includes skills training, investing. And I went for a number of years in business where I invested in my staff, and then I thought, hang on a second, I haven't actually done any training myself for the last 12 years, and I'm running a marketing business, I'm supposed to be up with it, so I invested in an entrepreneurs program, and that was the best thing that I did, as well as obviously trying to keep the fundamentals in. And of course, as Ngareta says, sometimes you're going to be tired, grumpy, you haven't eaten, you're going to get the shits with someone, blah, 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 blah. But if you can at least have a part of your policy in your business, which is to get sleep, exercise, eat the right foods, If we're going past and eating fast food every day and we're drinking a lot of alcohol, I'm not saying drinking alcohol is a bad thing, but if you're doing it every night and then you find yourself being unable to control the business, well, maybe there's something they might need to
Sorry, Ganesh. I've got to just. We've got a few hundred people online. I've just got to.
Could I just add one thing to that?
Yeah, very quickly.
We all put rules around our lives.
Yeah.
And quite often those rules, they're self-imposed. Quite often they don't make sense. And a client I worked with recently, mortgage broker, had to start at 9, finish at 5. He works from home. And then he was complaining he couldn't do this, couldn't do that. And he was wondering why he was at the fridge so many times a day.
Right.
We broke down those rules and about how flexible his work was and why he was going to the fridge. You know, he was procrastinating. He wasn't hungry, he wasn't thirsty, he was procrastinating. So we broke down those rules. Now he works in a much more flexible way and he's so much happier in his work, in his health, and he's exercising.
Yeah.
Makes a huge difference.
Thank you very much to the panel. Thank you very much for people who've attended online. Thank you, Joel from Capture Later, who's sitting up the back. You won't see him on screen, but they've done a great job today. If you could throw the last slide, which is the QR code up, and I'll put that up on my laptop. Please give a warm round of thanks to our panellists today who've done a fantastic job. Thanks, mate. And of course, anybody who's in the room, of course, can simply stay and socialise and ask more questions. And I'm sorry that I had to cut the conversation off, but you know, that's what happens. So we've killed 2 hours in a heartbeat. Thanks very much, guys, and thank you very much, Ngareta. Okay. Yep. Okay, we're off air. That's good.